Hello and welcome to our webinar. Today we will be discussing the Meisterplan roadmap, the latest and the greatest. Please be aware that we are recording this webinar, and tomorrow we will send out the link to the recording. Also, if you have questions, please ask them in the questions panel. We'll have a Q&A session toward the end of the webinar. Any questions that we don't get to today, we will be sure to reach out to you and answer those questions after the webinar. Okay, so let's get started. My name is Caroline Holitsky, and I am the Director of Product Marketing. On our call today, we also have Debbie Somerville. She is the Director of Customer Success, and we have Achim Gnan, who is the Senior Customer Success Manager. And now I will hand it over to Debbie.
Thanks, Caroline. Our first topic is all about financials. Our product team has been busy releasing features this year and will continue to evolve this functionality in the next quarters. Notice the new features. Notice the new features all marked with red. These are the ones I would like to show off in Meisterplan. Let me switch over to my Meisterplan system now. All right. So I'm going to start with the project details page. This is a page your Meisterplan administrator is able to configure. The first thing to notice is the approved budget. It's a new dollar amount that can be added to the project details page. Previously, we only had the approved total days. This dollar amount represents the project budget for the entire project, including CapEx and OpEx dollars. Now, adding financial events have not changed. You would still be able to add CapEx and OpEx as the cost type. Your Meisterplan administrator is able to add a number of different categories that are typical to add as expenses. And it's, of course, still a best practice to tie financials to a milestone, especially early on in the project when at least to the start date, for cost and the end date for benefits. Obviously, as you get closer to the project and or are active on the project, you can use the custom date field to really hone in on the exactness. Now, there are 3 new sections available that I'd like to walk you through. When using the budget, you have additional value in seeing how your burn down or what your estimate at completion would be, as well as a deviation to that approved budget. So this new financial tracker shows future and past costs, and it's broken down to both the financial events and the allocation events. Similarly, using the same data, the cost type tracker is a little different view. In this case, it's taking all the financials and breaking it down to how you've categorized that cost, CapEx dollars or OpEx dollars. Notice you can still break down further to say where is that cost coming from, either the allocations on the project or the financial events as maintained here. The third tracker is called roles and resource costs. Very similar to the allocations, but it's taking the hours and multiplying it by the hourly rate that you have maintained at the role level or the resource level. Now, you'll need to decide how you want to use these trackers. So, for example, if forecasting is your main need, don't put costs on your internal resources. Notice I have an internal resource here for the junior developer with no cost, yet my external consultant has a cost. If project costing is more important to you, then put in costs at the internal resource level. Now, in addition to these new sections, these financial information is available elsewhere within the project's views, and I'd like to show a few of those off to you. One is the project list. If you notice, I have a simple view here showing approved budget, the estimate at completion, the deviation in dollars and the deviation in percent, as well as the future. With a quick sort of the column, you're able to quickly look for signs of trouble. What projects will be overrun and which ones might need your attention. Similarly, you can also put in costs on the overview, planned, as well as the deviation and approved budget. Your Meisterplan administrator would be the one to make those changes. Change log also gives you a view. Using our filter, you can quickly filter on, say, the approved budget and how often that approved budget has changed as a quick way of, seeing the history. As a reminder, you could use our project comments to indicate why that approved budget changed, at what point in time, and what was the main cause for that. Reporting, of course, is another area. You would expect to see these financials being available. Looking at just an aggregate of the budget by, say, strategy fit, or you could quickly put department or risk factors. You can see the budgets, the planned costs, and the estimate at completion. One other area that touches financials that's worth mentioning is in the actual time worked while importing. So we have an actual time worked import. We're finding weekly or monthly the team would import their actual time. What's now available on that spreadsheet is the ability to override the cost per hour for that time worked, or override the cost type. If these are not filled in, they would just use the defaults that are on your resource pool, or the project. Where this would be useful is if your project is normally an operational project, but they're working on activities that could be capitalized, you could indicate that as the override during that time period. Lastly, I'd like to mention how the security would work within our user groups. This is your Meisterplan administrator that would have to go in here, but as a reminder, what's available. For financials, you need to allow access to financials to certain user groups, or take that off. You are able to also indicate for certain user groups, do they have the ability to add, change, or delete financial events? And lastly, the two new fields, you would want to assign the approved budget, or if you weren't using total effort and choose to want to do that, where does it belong? Do they have the right to edit that, or not even, or read it, or not even see that information? So unassigned fields means they would not see it anywhere. Otherwise, you could give them read only or edit rights. Now I'd like to switch back to the presentation. So there's a few different roadmap items coming real soon, and I just thought it was real relevant to connect it here to the financial theme. The first is there will be separate budget fields for CapEx and OpEx. Where this will be shown is in the cost type tracker. You'll see the budget for CapEx and the deviation to that, and you'll see the budget for OpEx and the budget to that. The next slide will show, awesome. The next slide shows we will have the ability to enter actual financial events into Meisterplan. This is a screenshot showing how it will be on a separate tab, second tab, I should say. And in a very similar fashion of how you entered the plan, it will allow you to enter the actual. Besides entering it here in project details, next slide, you would also be able to do a quick import. So if you had an export coming from a financial system, you would be able to do a quick import on that using the handful of fields that are allowed. Lastly, Look at the second tab to these trackers. The financial tracker would incorporate the actual financial events and the actual time worked as well, and being able to see what how you're doing to the plan. And again, look for signs of trouble with the KPIs on the project list. Wonderful. All right. If you have any questions on financials, please post them in the chat. Otherwise, we can go into the second topic. Caroline, if you could give me control back, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Caroline, are you able to make me presenter? Is it working?
I've hit the button. I think there's a bit of a delay.
Awesome, I got it. Thank you. All right, so the next topic, Jira integration to Meisterplan. If your teams are using Jira today, either for agile work or say in project, there's a template even for waterfall type projects. Both those templates will work in terms of an integration with Meisterplan. So you're going to want to take a look at some of these improvements as they're pretty significant. I have a project called Recovery Test, and I have already linked that project to Jira. What I'd like to show off first is our new mapping. Let me get into, we have a new configuration that we can help you set up if you choose to work with Jira. And if it's just taking a little bit here. The new panel provides a couple new features here because of this mapping. Before we were only able to show you all the Jira tickets that were linked to this project. Maybe that's by epic name, or you can link it through JQL. Either way, we didn't know who was assigned that work and would that assignment fit within the plan. So if we were to, easier if I look at a quarter level here, if we were to look at what was in the plan, and one way of working with this integration is thinking months ahead of time, what does that work take? You give a high level estimation and you plug that in by role. Later, as they refine their work, they may find that it's a different estimate. You can do the linkage and it would tell you pretty quickly in this allocation summary that the work in Jira is more than what was in the plan. 27 days more work is in Jira than what you originally planned. You can do one of two things, like any project. You can say, do I want that work? Do I need that work? And do I accept that time? And if you do, you can change the time here in Meisterplan. The other is that's work outside the allocation, which is down here in red. If that's not important to your scope to get done, then you can choose to get it out of Jira into, say, a different epic. When you update this, so junior developer is short by 13 days. If I put in 36 days here and 90 days here, after the refresh, it will give you a real-time adjustment to being able to say, I can fit the work now within that plan. Just a side note, it's okay, project manager, there is no work in Jira for a project manager. You can still allocate them to the project for capacity view. This is just a soft warning saying if that's what you expected, that's fine. Now there's a second way we see customers work with Jira, and that is the team looks at the project as a whole, they break down their work, they estimate that work. In this case, you would import from Jira. The work is already done. We can import and link to the Jira instance. I'm going to import the same epic just so you could see it. And just remember, we can import using JQL or any number of epics here. So you have the option still, that hasn't changed. When I import this project from Jira, you will notice a couple things. One, it will import and insert the epic name as the project name. It will also automatically assign the mapping you have in Jira to Meisterplan. So if it's a person that was assigned, it would be inserted with the person's name. Otherwise, it can map to the role or team, whatever is the linkage you have in Meisterplan. The third thing it will import for you is the epic start and end date. So notice, because I had my epic starting end of August, it imported it there as that starting point. Very good. I won't teach you on the configuration today. If you are a Jira shop, feel free to reach out after the webinar and we can help you get this set up. I will now turn it over to Ahim, who has additional features to show off.
Perfect. Thank you, Debbie. Give me 1 second, grabbing here the screen from you. Okay, I hope you can all see Meisterplan. And I'm going to start with a resource management theme and will focus mostly on the team planner here, which is our dedicated view for resource management. And let's have a look at the new resource manager field first. So navigating here to the team planner, you can now see that in the filter section in the toolbar, we do have a new filter option available called resource manager here. Now to do so, to filter by resource manager, you in fact have to link resources to their respective resource manager first. And you do that via the resource pool, which means that users, in the best practice, typically admin users, must have access to the resource pool, right? So admin users typically should have this access, right? You can see here a column called resource manager. Also from a best practice perspective, if you don't have this field available, just make sure that you hit the configure columns button on the top, and then you can add this column to your view. Adding resource managers is pretty simple. You can, for example, like for Linda here, I can just add Zoe, who is the resource. I can just add Zoe to Linda via inline edit, right? It's pretty simple. It also saves instantly. You could also click on the little context menu here, the little square icon, and go into the resource profile to do that. Now, jumping back to the team planner, I already pre-configured a view and I named it for Linda. So it's a manual view I created, and I'm now going to add this filter. So via the toolbar, I select resource manager, and I'm searching for Linda. And now the idea is that this view here is showing me the people the resource manager is responsible for with one click, basically. The recommended route, in fact, is though that the admin effort is low, right? You don't want to create so many views manually. So also instead of picking Linda as like a filter value here manually, right? You can also choose from a right, which is called logged in user. So if I deselect Linda again, and I select logged in user, we are now seeing all the projects, all the resources that Henry is responsible for because my user is linked to Henry, the resource manager. So in this case, the user access rights, they manage all the views for you. So there's really no manual effort involved to create and populate all these resource manager views. You just have to link the appropriate user access rights in the user group management section, and then Meisterplan will do the rest for you. Okay, these are the resource manager views. Now let's look at the next section, which is about staffing role demand. Role demands in Meisterplan, right? Staffing role demands is supposed to help to staff efforts that are estimated on the role level down to the resource level. So I'm switching my view here and look at my software engineering resources. And I'm gonna show you what this new staff role looks like. In the team planner, you have to look at a row level. So in my case, I'm looking at my top row called Developer Junior. That's my role. And when I expand this role, I can see that there is multiple requests on the row level, right? So we have no individuals assigned yet. Looking at the Jira integration project, I'm clicking on the little context menu here, and I can select from staff role. When you open this menu now, Meisterplan is showing you by default all the resources that work within this role, right? So we look here in Q4 2023, and you see on top, in the top row, you see the demand on the row level. The bottom view shows me all the resources, including their availability. So each row, the figures within each row here, they basically show me the availability per person. So what I could do now is I could just simply assign, with this little checkbox in the left here, all of this work to Joseph. But you can see on top that not all demand has been assigned yet because it was more than one FTE. So if your demand on the row level exceeds one FTE, you obviously have to find multiple resources. So in this case, I could look into my remaining resources within the month of January, and I could, for example, select Rishan or Harriet, right? And all I do is I just click in this one cell. That's simple. In the top now, I can see 3 check marks, which means I have assigned all of the demand from the role level to the resource level, and I could quit via staff role and confirm all of that. Another option before I leave here could be, assuming in this view you don't find anyone available within the developer junior role, is you can also expand the scope. So in the middle section, you see these little filter chips. So you could also look into other roles here and basically expand your search area for available resources as you're looking for availability when staffing, right? That's one way to do it. Another way to do it also is instead of taking the the remaining demand is you can also click into a cell. So if I look back at Rishan, for example, right, I can also decide to assign 0.25 FTE, excuse me, 0.25 FTE to 2 people, right? In this case, I can split and distribute the effort across multiple people. Yeah, that's the staff role mode. And confirming this action here, basically now you can see the Jira integration project disappeared from the row level because we have assigned all the demand from the row level down to the resource level. Okay, next point, Team Planner also is the look and feel of our grid mode here. So when I select the grid mode in the top toolbar, you can see here that I have the option between flexible and time grid. I can basically navigate here like in an Excel grid. So that means that I can copy and paste values. I'm simply using my keypad here, Control C, Control V commands, and I can just paste these values in here. Also, what I can do is I can use my keypad and navigate using my arrow pads or tab, for example. So the idea is to make this very much Excel-like for you users. And we are working on more features that Carolina actually will later present as well for this area. Good. Resource management, last topic here, is going to be about the resource status. A new area that you might want to explore is in the resource pool and the pivot reports. In fact, resources join companies and leave companies, and you want to make sure that you don't plan with inactive resources on your projects. So you can see here in my resource pool view that I have a column called resource status, and it's telling me mostly active. But sometimes, right, you might have someone leaving, and from your Active Directory or somewhere else from your HR tools, you have a termination date when this person leaves the company, right? Which means that Meisterplan takes into account whether someone is not within the company anymore, or also for hiring purposes, if you know that someone is going to join you in 2 months, right? In this case, you would see with an active hiring date here that someone might have a resource that is called active. So termination dates in the resource pool determine whether someone is active or inactive. And now from a utilization perspective, I want to jump real quick into a report and show you what this can look like. So we got to reload the screen real quick because I applied changes earlier. And this report here now is basically filtering by this resource status field I just showed you, right? So in the top, you can see I'm looking for only inactive resources. And as a matter of fact, I do have one resource called Dolores, who is not with the company anymore, but Dolores is still assigned to 2 projects, right? So that's a really good mechanism to make sure that your data is accurate and you can quickly validate if you still have assigned resources on projects, right? And you can actually not support them anymore. All right, that is the resource management part here. And I'm going to now jump over to a different section, which is going to focus on project management. And I'm going to start with project comments. So project comments are now supported in Meisterplan. There are 2 types of notifications. There is general notifications, which you can also access from anywhere in the tool. So all you got to do is you got to expand the right panel here in Meisterplan, and you can hit the comments button, and you must select a project of your choice so that you have basically an object, right, that you want to comment on. And all you got to do here is you basically use your add symbol on your keypad, and you can select from all of the users within your Meisterplan system. Right? So I could now, for example, tag my colleague Debbie or Caroline and send them an email notification asking them, for example, to submit an update on this project. Right? And now Debbie will receive an email from Meisterplan, and she can directly jump into the tool with a link that's part of the email. The other section for comments is in the list, and I want to show you real quick what this can look like. And this is now a notification comment that is tied to a user right, and we call it project manager notification. So the user right here is managed in the user group where you would manage your project managers. And it basically helps you that a project manager who is assigned to one or multiple projects can receive automated updates from Meisterplan, like a newsletter, basically, right? It's important, though, that users, especially project managers, that they enable this type of feature. And to do that, you can click, or a user must click on their profile. It's in the very right top corner. And within my profile, a user has to one time verify their email. So it's a verification email. And after that is done, people can here enable, first of all, the project comments, right? That was the first item I showed you, that you can tag people and they actually receive an email. If someone does not enable notifications, Meisterplan will actually tell you that, and you will see a little hint that tells you that a user has disabled notifications. So you don't like wait desperately for someone to receive this email, right? It's disabled. And the second part here are the project manager notifications. That's the bottom here. And at a project manager, if I'm not a project manager, I can also not select this option. But a PM would now enable this functionality here and can then choose between daily or weekly newsletters. And Meisterplan will send an email that lists all of the projects that have been changed within this time frame, either daily or within the past week. And that's a good way to make sure that users stay up to date on what's going on in Meisterplan without having to manually go in and check all the time for any updates that might have happened. Okay, I'm going to jump back to the project list here, staying within the project management theme. And also, similar to the resource managers, we do have a project manager filter, right? So users who are labeled as a project manager, they can also have their automated views here that are filtered by PM. And all I got to do for that is I have to click here on this filter, which I already pre-selected, and I'm simply selecting logged in user. And now the beauty of all of this is that if I, as an admin, create this view and share it with my project manager user group, every PM who logs in here and uses this view will by default see only their projects. Right? There's no further manual configuration needed. It's a one-time effort basically for me as an admin. And if I'm Henry, right, the PM, then I see all of my projects here. If I'm a different person, a different user, I would see the projects accordingly. And yeah, these are the project manager logged in user filters here. Similar to same look and feel like the resource managers. Okay, staying here, we earlier submitted comments on a single project basis, right? I tagged the user and I submitted a comment to Debbie. Now, what you also can do is you can in fact select multiple projects here and then submit comments to all of these. And that's pretty simple. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to select multiple projects. And now in the toolbar, you can notice that there is a button called comment. So if I select this button here, comment, I can now, for example, share an update with different users. Say Caroline is my PMO manager, right? And I could say to Caroline, hey, can you please check these 3 projects? I submitted a bunch of updates here, milestones, etc., and I need your review for the timelines, for example, right? Whatever the message contains, but you don't have to submit 3 separate comments. You can just submit one comment to all of the projects. Just say, hi, Caroline. All right. There's more bulk actions available, in fact. For example, and I'm going to change my view real quick from this one to my pipeline, where I have all my projects filtered by stage gate seeking approval. Now, bulk edit might be also helpful, not just for comments, but also for changing multiple endpoints at the same time, like lookup fields, for example. So if you're, for example, at the end of an approval of a review meeting and you want to submit a bunch of changes, for example, to project status, or like in my case now to the project stage gate, you can also select multiple projects. And you can then, via the edit button, which is right next to the comment button, select the project field of your choice, right? In my case, it's stage gate. And I can now determine what values I want to change. And these projects are currently in stage gate seeking approval, and I want to approve them because it's, for example, at the end of a review meeting, and these projects are now approved and go active. So all I do is I submit edit, and Meisterplan is updating all of them for me at once. And they also leave my filtered view because I'm still filtering, of course, for the seeking approval. But that's a good best practice for lifecycle management and quickly applying changes to multiple objects. All right, that was the bulk comments. And we are now closing out the section here, going back to the main view. And this feature just went live yesterday, in fact. And I'm going to hide the comments. And you can now, in the main view, in the Portfolio Designer, use ad hoc filters. And these filters, important, they are user-specific right now, so you cannot really mess up another user's view here, so no worries. But you can see the same look and feel in the toolbar. So there's a little filter button. You can here deactivate or activate the filters. And these filters, right, they look the same like the others. They do the same. You can pick from project-specific metadata that's available for filtering. And these filters, they will stick, right? So when you, for example, say, I'm looking for status, I want to filter my main view here by status, and only look at projects that are not as healthy as they should be. And when I now log out and I come back in, I will still see the same filter, right? So it retains the settings. Most importantly, though, the idea really is that users can quickly switch the values as needed. For example, when you're in a meeting or you want to jump from one portfolio bucket to another portfolio bucket without having to completely reload the screen, then these quick filters can be very handy. All right, this sums up the project management section as well. And I'm going to hand over back to Caroline, who is next.
Great, thank you, Achim. Okay, so now we'll take a look at the roadmap. And where we're starting is looking at what our goals are for 2023. So our first goal is improved functionalities for resource managers. So you've already seen a lot of the updates that we've made to the team planner. We have other updates that are planned for 2023, and we are going to continue improving that functionality for resource managers. The second goal is more involvement for the portfolio manager in the lean PPM process. So just being able to make sure that you have your processes in place alongside the tool to be able to make the best decisions and create plans that really work. Then our third goal for this year is a better user experience. So we'll be taking a look at different views and different features and seeing how we can improve the user experience. And then our fourth goal is improved integrations. So with things that are coming, that have come or are still coming, such as webhooks and triggers, we're going to be working on our integrations. Okay, so now we will move on to the roadmap. And at this point, so this is actually a feature that was released today. So this is adding to the functionality of our scenario comparison. So let me switch over to a screenshot. So what this does, previously, if you guys used scenario comparison, you're probably familiar with the little light gray bars that you can see over the portfolio designer that show the differences within your scenario that you're comparing. In this case, it's the proposed scenario for February 2023 that we're comparing with the plan of record. Now we've added in our information panel where you can go to the overview of a project and you can see the differences between the two different scenarios and how that affects this specific project. So you can see differences in the start and finish date or differences in the financial KPIs, for instance. Yeah, so that is the updated scenario comparison that just was released today. Now, for our next point, we are adding a view that is specifically for team members. So you'll be able to invite more people within your organization into Meisterplan. And let me also show you what that will look like. So this view will be called My Projects, and they'll see a bit of information about themselves up at the top. So including what their primary role is, what calendar they use, what department, office, and their skills. Down below, they will see a schedule, and they'll be able to see what projects they are allocated now and in the future, and they can check and see if there are certain time periods that they may be over allocated or don't have enough capacity for what they're assigned to. And so then they can go back and talk to the relevant person to let them know, hey, this isn't going to work, I'll be over capacity, or try to resolve some of those things. At this point, when this is released, it will be a read-only view. We are considering in the future to possibly allow some areas of this view to be edited. Also, I do want to make you aware that as of right now, we can't restrict other views. So if you give access to the My Projects, they'll be able to see other views within Meisterplan as well. But that is also something that's on the schedule, to be able to restrict views so that you can have project team members in your Meisterplan system, but only where they can see their own projects. So that will be coming in the future. So the next feature that is coming soon, and all of these features that I'm talking about right now are planned, they'll be released by the end of this quarter, so by the end of March 2023. So the next one is our color legend. And again, I'll show you a mock of this one. So as you guys know, there's many different types of colors that you can use, different formatting within the Portfolio Designer, and often it's hard to remember exactly what each color means. So within our information panel, we'll be adding another tab where you can go and see the legend and understand exactly what those colors signify and what they mean. And our next feature is our Power Automate trigger. You guys might already be aware that we released recently in this year, we released what we call webhooks, which work with our REST API, as well as a Zapier trigger. And basically what those allow are for Power Automate, now that will be coming soon, what it allows is the enabling of integrating Meisterplan in both directions. So using workflows in Power Automate. So for instance, some of the things that you'll be able to do using these triggers is automatically adding members to a Teams channel when they've been allocated to a project, or having a project automatically update in an external tool or in something like SharePoint when a change is made in Meisterplan. So this is really exciting because it's the first time that we're able to take integration from Meisterplan and get it into other tools. So then our next feature that's coming, and the next two are around our team planner, so around the resource management topic. So as Achim already talked about, we have made some nice updates to make the team planner work more quickly and easily and be more intuitive. So some of the other things that are coming are things like being able to select multiple cells and copy and paste multiple cells, or also drag and drop functionality. So you'll be able to change things very easily with these additional capabilities that are similar to what you might be used to in a tool like Excel. So that's one update to the team planner. The next one is being able to perform more allocations, or being able to reassign allocations in the team planner. And again, I'll go to a mock here. So this is showing the team planner in the flex mode. And so what we can see here is if you click on a project and you go to the three dots, there will be an option to replace the allocation. And then you'll be able to search specifically for the person that you want to replace, and you'll reassign that allocation to that person. So that's you'll be able to do that in the flex mode. We're also intending to have the same functionality available in the, in the grid mode. So similarly, you can go, sorry, let me go back to this one. You can go and hit the three dots and choose replace allocation, and you can choose who you want to search for the person that you're looking for, choose that person, and reassign the allocation to that person. Also intended to be coming with this, with one of the future releases for the team planner, is reassigning in grid multi-selection. So you'll be able to go in and select multiple different cells in the team planner grid and be able to copy and paste those, or being able to use the replace allocation mode for that, and change all three of those cells. So for November, December, and January, find the person that you want to reassign that allocation to and be able to do that directly there in the team planner. So that is what is planned for Q1 in 2023. What I also want to show you guys is in our product roadmap. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but we have our under consideration tab here. And so this gives you a little bit of insight of what we're looking forward to working on in the next year. So some of these things I can tell you we are for sure going to be working on is, for instance, allocating resources and roles in a percentage of their given capacity. So instead of allocating based on FTE values, you'll be able to say, okay, I want to take 20% of the capacity that so-and-so has for and allocate it to this project. So that's one thing that's coming. Also, another one that may be interesting is project managers can easily communicate resource requests to resource managers. So there's going to be some capability where there's more collaboration between project managers and resource managers, and they can directly in Meisterplan be able to let them know when they're requesting a specific person for their project. And as you look through the under consideration tab, you can see that it's sorted out by topic. So we have quite a few in many different topics: resource management, collaboration, actuals, portfolio planning, scenario planning, admin rules, and integration and API. And I encourage you to go there. You can go and look specifically at a card, find out a little bit of information about it, but you can also vote. So for the features that are really important to you, you can mark those as critical, or you can vote them as a nice to have or an important. But we definitely pay attention to how you guys vote on these features as we're building out our roadmap. Another thing that you can do is you can submit a support ticket for any feature requests that you have. And I encourage you to do that as well. We definitely read those, we review those, and that's what we use to help build out these under consideration cards. And then we use the voting to really help us develop the features exactly to what your needs are and what is most important to you guys. So that brings us to the end of the roadmap portion. And what we can do now is have our question and answer. And I will let Achim take over. And Achim, I think you have the first question.
Yeah, I do. It's about a team planner and sharing my Meisterplan system again. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Good. All right, so team planner. So the first question here, that is about, in fact, the earlier when I expanded the role, I think a person was asking what this little row, this first row basically means here within a person or role row. So let's look at a person just because that makes a little bit more sense. But basically what it does is it shows you, so this first row that's a little smaller than the other rows is showing you always the remaining capacity, right? Basically the availability. So you can see, for example, here in June, that all of this here, right, all of these three values, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6, they sum up to 1.3 FTE of demand. And since a person is 1 FTE, basically, right, it leaves you with a negative availability of minus 0.3 FTE. So yes, this row here, this little, like the smaller row, always indicates the remaining capacity. And red means not available, over allocated, and white cells mean that there is still availability on this role or resource.
As a quick side note, it's shown in the allocation unit. So right now his allocation unit is FTE. If you prefer seeing that in days or hours, you can switch that and it would convert it for you.
That's correct.
Great. So we do have one other question. Achim, if you can make me presenter again, I'll show something in the product board for this one.
Okay, on the way.
Perfect, thank you. And let's see. Okay, so the question, if I can pull it up, is what is our plan with where we're going with planned versus actual hours? So I'd like to show you, so we don't have anything specifically being developed at this very moment on this, but I'll show you two cards that are under consideration that are directly related to where we want to go with planned planned versus actual hours. So one of them is allowing the ability for project managers to go in and enter actual time worked for themselves and possibly for their project members. And then another view is allowing team members themselves. So as we now have created the My Projects view, we're also thinking about allowing more functionality for team members where they can go in and also enter in their own actual time worked themselves. So those are two different features that we're considering. And again, if this is something that's really important to you, I very much encourage you to go in and vote on those cards and to let us know how important that is to you. Okay. Achim, did you have another question?
Yes, we have also time left, and there's a little bit more, so I can take over the screen again.
Let me make you presenter. There you go.
Okay. There is a question which was about this time the project management one. Good for me. It's mine again. So when I earlier changed multiple values at once, right, and I'm still in this view where they are gone now. So let me go back to just go back to a new view, or sorry, I'm just remove this filter. That's easier. So the person is asking here, how can I understand what I changed, right, when I submit multiple changes? So, and it's pretty easy, in fact. So in the right side, the panel again, where we earlier looked at the comments, there's another button that allows you to look at the change log. And in fact, what you can do here is, because you see a bunch of changes here, right, that happened within the portfolio from all different users working here. So I did earlier change the stage gate from seeking approval to approved. And you can see in this case, they already sit on top because we didn't do much later. But if you just want to say, well, I did change the stage gate, you can always filter the change log also by this field, right? And now I see all the changes that happened on the stage gate level, right? And you can now quickly see that here all at the same time at 6:33 p.m., which is here German time in our Meisterplan headquarters, I did change all of these 3 projects. And you can also see the previous and the new value, for example. So yeah, bulk changes, they are definitely traceable as well in the change log.
Okay, very good. I'm not seeing any other questions at this point, unless Debbie, did you have any questions that came in?
I am not seeing any either.
Okay, well then I want to thank everyone so much for attending our webinar, and thank you Achim and Debbie for presenting. We really appreciate it, and if there are any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, please feel free to submit a support ticket or get in touch with us so that we can get in touch with you and answer your questions. And as I mentioned before, we will have a recording of this webinar that we will send out via email tomorrow. And yeah, so just be in touch and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.